Good morning, everyone. It's the 3rd of July in 2020, and today I'm joined by Benjamin Hume of Evolve Block and Estate Management. Benjamin recently did a blog on LinkedIn. Benjamin, welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning. Just very quickly, tell us a little bit about the blog. It was on LinkedIn. It seemed to be well received. But why did you do it, and what was it about?
I think it was a blog about the pressures that a block manager is facing, not only in the current situation, but generally with everything that's changing. It's important that someone on the firing line just allows us to release a bit of pressure and I think it's perhaps a bit of validation that I was just hoping that I wasn't the only one that was going through all of this. It was a bit of a ramble, but I think it was something that I felt I needed to say.
Okay, so what sort of things were you talking about in it when you say you've got things to say? I mean, we're all block managers. What was it that you felt that you needed to share?
I think it's just the pressures that we're under and all the different areas in our industry that are bearing down on us from all the different angles, from a customer service perspective, from the current fire safety situations and the changes. Through to issues with communication. It's all these things have a factor on how we undertake our jobs and the bearing down on us that we have. So it was like a pressure cooker, just had to release a bit of steam just to show the world what I was dealing with.
Yeah, and of course it was done in the middle of we're still in the COVID crisis, but it was fairly early on in the COVID crisis. We'd been a few weeks in lockdown, and it was definitely feeling very pressure cookered then. As we record this, we're starting to release, and we'll see whether that works or not. Fingers crossed on that one. But you got quite a reaction from it. Tell me a little bit about the reaction. What do people say?
The reaction was actually quite overwhelming. To be honest with you, I didn't really expect much of a reaction, but it's just sort of a video diary. It was just me to get my thoughts on. I didn't expect so many people to respond and message me privately or contact me and just say, do you know what, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's going through this. So I think I must have struck a chord with an awful lot of property managers that perhaps didn't want to say anything or didn't want to show they weren't coping or anything like that. And I think it added as a bit of a lightning conductor for everyone's stress and pressures at the moment, that they just felt that someone has just succinctly said what they're all thinking. And I was quite chuffed that I'd managed to give people a bit of reassurance that they're not on their own.
It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because there are other stressful occupations, a prison officer perhaps, or a nurse on the front line of a COVID ward. So we're not alone in having a tough job. But what do you think it is about property management that creates some of those pressures?
I think it's because we're sort of seen as this Swiss Army knife of property management. From things like we have to have a bit of legal knowledge, a bit of accounts knowledge, constant changes of fire safety regulations, building control information, insurance information, all these different areas that we have to know to a certain level. It's keeping these plates spinning, keeping all of these different plates spinning over and over and over. And it's the pressure of not wanting to drop any of those. The last thing we want is a major incident on our watch. So we have to keep an eye on fire safety, health and safety, make sure the accounts are done right. Things are demanded in accordance with the lease, knowing the lease is inside out. And there's so much expected of us as this go-to person for everything to do with property in that block of flats, that there is an awful lot of pressure bearing down on us. You know, I liken it to Atlas, just, you know, it's holding up that earth just to keep it going and keeping all those plates spinning. Then, you know, one plate's wobbling, and I've got to run over, and this other plate's wobbling, and you're just constantly flitting between these plates that you need to keep spinning. And it's not a physical pressure. It's not a pressure to accomplish something physical. It's not something that you need to physically move or do. It's the what if I don't do this right pressure. And, you know, in estates of hundreds of units, there's an awful lot of things that can go wrong. You know, and I know property management companies have resources to deal with the various risks, but it bears on that property manager to coordinate all of that.
That's really interesting, Benjamin. So if you were to bring on a new member of staff into your team, what would be your top three tips, if you like, for helping them to deal with that pressure?
I think the first thing I would tell them is to not take things personally. They are going to get an awful lot shot at them, some of it friendly fire. And it's really important that they're able to go home at 5 o'clock and not take it with them. It is just a job at the end of the day. Yes, there are stresses, there are pressures, but it's making sure that they don't take on that load. Number one, and that's what I say to all my staff.
And number two and three?
Number two is try and find something during the day to make you smile, to make you happy, just to release those endorphins, just to have something that breaks up the monotony of the day. Whether it's, watching something silly on YouTube, or you've shared something on Facebook, or something that just helps you realize that there is more to life on that day. And third, if it is getting too much, it's okay to stick the white flag up and say, hey, I need some support here or some help here. You're not on your own. There is a team of staff here, and there are managers that can step in, even if it's just to be a reassurance. It's okay to stick the white flag up now and again.
Of course, well-being is a personal thing. Benjamin, what do you do just for yourself? Can you share what you do to just cope with sometimes a difficult day?
I mean, my coping strategies, every lunchtime, I always find somewhere quiet, whether it's the kitchen or the conference room. I put Netflix on or Amazon Prime, and I watch something funny where, just something that makes you laugh for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And the positivity that gives to you, whether you realize it or not, but when you have to then go back for the afternoon, you feel so much better. You don't realize how much of a difference that makes when you've just had a 10, 15-minute laughing session. What that gives you that energy, that positivity to deal with that afternoon. And it just punctuates the day quite nicely. Dog walking. Whenever I come home from work, I always take Her Majesty out for a walk, throw a ball, and that's before I do anything at home. And it just allows me that time to just wind down and just process whatever's happened today. Meet the other dog walkers, throw a ball, and so when I'm back home, properly back home, I'm not in work mode. I think probably the final way of coping is just go for a walk. If things are just getting a bit too much in the office, no manager and no one is going to stop you just going for a quick 5-minute walk. I do it quite often. If I've had a particularly stressy and pressurized video call, or something that's come in an email that's really frustrated me, I just literally go around the town for 5 minutes just to clear my head before I do anything. And it allows that bit of mindfulness, just allows you to center yourself, to ground yourself, so that you don't end up overwhelmed mentally.
Benjamin, it's just occurred to me, there is another thing that you have done to help, not yourself, but help industry cope with the pressures and advance standards, raise standards, which is the leasehold management professionals. Just very quickly, give us a 10-second advert on that. What's that about?
The Leasehold Management Professionals is it's a regional CPD training session that we put on the South Coast on various venues throughout the year. We invite barristers, accountants, lawyers, industry professionals, industry suppliers to come along and talk to property managers, just property managers, in a room and say, right, this is what you're dealing with, this is what you're up against, let's give us the tools to do it. There's no ulterior motive. They're pretty much almost free to get in. We have a great crowd of sponsors that allow these to happen. And it's about equipping the property managers right now with tools that they can go away and deal with in our part of the world.
Yeah, I turned up to one of those events. In fact, you were kind enough to ask me to speak at one. And there was a barrister on there, LKP were on there, and there was a packed house. And it was a really good grown-up conversation about the practicalities and realities of property management. So I congratulate you on that organisation, and anything we can do to support it, we'll be happy to do so. Benjamin, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate your time. One last question for you. Are you going to carry on with the blogging? Are we going to see you again?
Yeah, absolutely. It's personally, perhaps for my own benefit, it's nice to just get these thoughts and ideas out of my head onto something. But it seems to be that people are quite interested to see what's happening to a senior property manager on the front line dealing with this stuff. So I think for just reassurance for our industry, I'd like to just continue, try not to make it a verbal diarrhea on on LinkedIn, but just to reassure people that we're all going through the same things and just help the industry understand what a property manager is having to deal with on a regular basis.
Well, I, for one, will be looking forward to that. And I hope to see you soon, Benjamin. Thank you for joining us today.
Okay, thank you very much.